Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank the greats of heaven, the virtues of the masters, the compassion and mercy of the grand predecessor, senior transmitters, temple masters, lecturers, others for giving me this opportunity to talk about today's topic, which is chapter 19 of the Tao Te Ching. Okay, chapter 19 is not that long. Hopefully we'll finish in about 60, 70 minutes or so. Okay. The outline's a little longer than I expected, but nevertheless, okay. It's shorter. It's going to be shorter than next week's or the next one, chapter 20. All right. Okay. So this chapter is titled Simplicity and Plainness, or Return to Simplicity. Okay. And it's made up of about 4 sections, okay? So they're straightforward, right? There are 10 lines. Well, yeah, 10 lines, 11 phrases, if you want to distinguish it that way. Okay, so this chapter is also related, very closely related to chapter 18, which is also, kind of related to chapter 17. So it's chapter 17, 18, 19, and the next one, chapter 20, are all related, all right? So this chapter specifically is a further, you can say, description by Lao Tzu about chapter 18, which is the 4 halves, okay? If you remember from last week, right? Okay. So because last week, 4 halves, they talk about benevolence and righteousness, right? And what's that? Wisdom, right? Knowledge, wisdom, okay, etc. Okay, or intelligence, and about the 6 relations. Family relationships and the country in chaos. But so this is just chapter 19 is a further explanation of chapter 18. Okay. All right. Now let's look at the outline. Okay. Chapter 19. It's clear, right? It's big enough for you guys to see. Okay. All right. All right. So First phrase is, or line, is in sagacity and abandon knowledge. Okay, what's sagacity? Well, okay, 绝 means to to terminate, break off, cut off, etc. Okay, okay, that's where sun. Okay, it literally means holy, sage-like, or it also means for sages, sagacious, and saintly. Okay? All right. The word qi means to abandon or discard, forsake, reject, relinquish, throw away. Okay, last word, zi. Okay, we came across this word last week also. Literally, it means wisdom. I mean, usually we use it for wisdom. But it also means cleverness, intelligence, knowledge, resourcefulness. Okay, so the basic meaning is terminate saintliness and relinquish or discard intelligence. Okay, so that's the basic surface level meaning. Here's another level is that, okay, all right. You don't want the contrived holiness and wisdom, nor the contrived intelligence. Okay, that's what that means. Further, all right, another meaning. Okay, so conversely, when the Tao is present, remember last week we said when the Tao was what? Well understood, right, in people's memories, that's been applied daily, etc. Okay, well practiced, well known, etc. Okay, there is true wisdom which is natural and then forced. Okay, that's important. And there's no need for contrived knowledge. Contrived means forced, or you can say artificial, okay, or not natural, okay? So there's a deeper meaning of the sun, okay, what we call sages, sage-like, saintly, etc. It's a name and reputation for contrived holiness or sageness. When the Tao is forgotten, people try to project the appearance of a sage with contrived knowledge. Okay, that's another meaning. Okay, deeper meaning. Then there's another deeper meaning of zi, which is, we say, cleverness, intelligence, right, knowledge. It's the appearance of intelligence, cleverness, to stroke one's ego. Okay, so that's when that comes out. Okay, when the Tao is not present. So the deeper understanding is intelligence and knowledge are easily turned into selfish interests, okay? Because the ego rises, okay, or becomes prominent when the people no longer are following the Tao or, their true nature, their Buddha nature, okay? So the higher understanding is because of the reputation and fame that comes with wisdom and intelligence, people will all pursue them now. Now it's for the sake of reputation, fame, power, even, etc. Okay? So the implication is because people will pursue fame and reputation by unscrupulous means, they will have deviated from their true nature. Okay, so that's the downfall, right? That's you can say, the downward spiral, right? Once we no longer, once we start placing this, what was it, fame and reputation on these labels like, oh, you're so holy or so wise, etc., right? Then what happens is then people will then become what? Attracted and attached to those labels and to those notions of fame and reputation and started pursuing it, right? And then some will even go to more extreme, which is they will use unscrupulous, right? 不择手段, right? Unscrupulous means, right? Okay, it doesn't mean illegal. It could mean that too, but it just means that they'll use underhanded methods to try to gain fame and reputation. Okay, and in doing so, we've completely deviated from our true nature, from Buddha nature. Okay, so the key point is the ideal that Lao Tzu wants to point us in the direction of is for people to become more honest and simple in their lives and not to have to pursue the external reputation and fame of contrived wisdom and knowledge. Okay? All right, so that's the first phrase. Okay, then it follows. Okay, this is one half of the line, if you will. Okay, then the second half is then if we, stop the notions of holiness and knowledge, then what? The people will benefit 100 times. Okay, that's what literally means. Okay, all right. I can skip through these definitions. Okay, so the basic meaning of phrase is by doing away with all the contrived wisdom, appearance of knowledge that stroke one's ego, people will benefit many times over. Okay, 100 times, many times over. Okay, so another understanding is the contrived appearance of wisdom and intelligence can be quite harmful. So by discarding them, people will benefit greatly. Okay? Further understanding. Oh. How come? Sorry. Okay, sorry. I was in the wrong mode. Okay. All right. This is better, right? Okay. So the key, further understanding is that all the contrived knowledge, wisdom, and appearance now will negatively influence people's view of the value of life by pursuing the fame and reputation by any means. Okay, it will twist, right? Or you can say distort people's views of the value of life. Okay, because now what's more important is to pursue fame and reputation by any means, unscrupulous means. So that's the danger. Okay, that Lao Tzu is trying to remind us. So his whole point is to stop pursuing those fame, reputation, or names and reputation of being saintly or wise or knowledgeable, intelligent, etc. Okay, all right. There's a deeper meaning of people, though. Okay, remember, Ming means people. Okay, it means folk, citizen, etc. Okay, okay. There's a deeper. It's our minds, our own minds. Okay, so it's not external. All right. The first definition is external. That's the superficial definition. The deeper meaning is our own minds, which is internal. Then there's a deeper meaning of li. All right. Li is our original definition or surface definition. It just means to benefit. Right. That's the verb, to do good. The noun is advantage, benefit, interest, profit. Adjective is something that's favorable or smooth. Okay, so that's the benefit. Okay, so that's the external. There's a deeper meaning. The internal is this. It's the power of faith and concentration. Okay, 信心力 and 定力. Okay, that's all internal. Okay, so the deeper understanding is by not relying on contrived wisdom, sageness, and knowledge, our thoughts will not deviate from our true nature, and our faith in our true nature will be stronger. Okay? All right, because we're not chasing after these forms, if you will. All right? Higher understanding is by not wanting to pursue the good fame and reputation of contrived wisdom and knowledge, our minds will be at ease and will benefit. So we will not have vexations or worries, right? Concerns or troubled mind. Okay. Okay. So with our minds at ease, we will be able to watch over ourselves. Our Buddha nature will still be the master, of ourselves. As our minds will be under control, and our faith in our true nature will be stronger. Okay. So by not pursuing these external, forms, reputation, fame, etc., it's gonna help our Buddha nature to be still in control of our minds, as opposed to our six senses, which we talked about last week, right? It's going to be mentioned here too, but not in this section. It's going to be in the third section. Okay. All right. Okay. So our mind, Okay. So the key point is we benefit greatly by having our Buddha nature watch over ourselves, like be its master, and not deviate from the correct path and not create karma. Because if we just pursue those external forms of fame and reputation, and especially, that will, it's not all necessarily the case, but that's sufficient enough to cause us to start using different means, right, to try to achieve those external aims, right, or ends, and we end up sometimes unwittingly creating karma, right? Okay, so that's what we want to avoid. All right, that's the first line, if you will, section. Okay, second section line would be to end benevolence and abandon righteousness. Yeah, this is. When you read it at surface level, people say, wow, Lao Tzu's teaching, it's totally opposite that of Confucius, right? Confucius' 4 books talks about benevolence and righteousness as the two key, two of the five constants, right? And we talked about this last week too, right? About how, right? About how if we, the first line, right? First line, okay, right. Okay, so basic meaning is this, right? Seize and discard the false benevolence and false sense of righteousness. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about. Okay, Lao Tzu wanted people to abandon the contrived benevolence and righteousness that appear when the Tao is forgotten or not practiced. That's the first line of chapter 18 last week. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, all right. So Lao Tzu is not saying there is no benevolence and E, that we shouldn't have it. Okay, but rather he's saying that abandon the contrived benevolence and righteousness that appear when the Tao is forgotten. In other words, benevolence and righteousness should appear or should come from the Tao, not from anything external, not from the intellectual mind, okay, not from reasoning, okay, because today we all have reasons to say, oh, why do we need to be benevolent? Why do we need to be righteous or have righteousness, right? So that's already the second level. Remember chapter 17, right? We talk about those 4 levels, right? So this is already in the second level when we start having, rationalize. We have to rationalize about benevolence or anything for that. That becomes dualistic. And that's where, you open a can of worms, right? Because then there's right or wrong. There's a reason or not a reason, etc., okay? And then that becomes confusing. And then that's when you're going to have contrived, force, people, it's not natural. It's no longer just so or suchness, right? Which comes straight forth from our Buddha nature. Okay, so the further understanding is this is about the dichotomy, that's again, the duality of being good, because you are told to be, right? We are told to be good, okay? Versus being good because you want to be, and it makes you being natural, right? One comes naturally from within us versus being told, which is what? Outside of us, right? Okay, so anything that comes from outside of us, it's not natural, right? It didn't come from you, right? So that's why. Okay, so that's what Lao Tzu wants to make this point, right? Okay. Okay, so the deeper meaning is Lao Tzu's perspective with regards to benevolence and righteousness is as follows. So Lao Tzu's standpoint is here. It's from the essence of the Tao perspective, where everything flows from it. But when we no longer are in accord or in conformity or congruent with the Buddha nature essence, then there is a need. There becomes a need, okay, for benevolence and righteousness. Okay, so that's no longer the highest level, or the enlightened level, you can call it. All right, okay, all right. So that's why, today, well, not just today. I mean, since his time, okay, throughout the Red period, right, the last 3,000 plus years, we have to promote. Oh, this is good. This is bad. Okay, so we should follow the good and not the bad, etc., etc. All right, because we no longer in accordance with our Buddha nature. Okay, all right, higher understanding. Okay, from Lao Tzu's standpoint, after the great Tao has already faded, then the labels for benevolence and righteousness arises. Okay, this is already at an inferior level, already at a second-rate level, okay? Why is it inferior or second-rate? Well, first of all, it's no longer natural coming from within our Buddha nature or ourselves, okay? So it's without us, it's from external, okay? Plus, not only is external, but it's what? Dualistic, and that's a problem, okay? Or that becomes problematic, okay? Because then people can start taking sides, says, well, maybe I shouldn't be benevolent, or maybe, stuff like that, okay? So that becomes, it just creates more problems, right? Okay, so implication, Lao Tzu did not want us to pursue the inferior level, or you can say the dualistic level. That's the second level and below. Remember chapter 17, right? 4 levels, right? The first is the ideal level, the best, if you will. Then the second, okay, third and fourth, okay? Remember chapter 17, okay? All right. So the key point is to discard the false benevolence and righteousness, because they are promoted when the Tao is already forgotten. Okay? So, all right? All right, okay. Now, when we could end or stop the contrived benevolence and abandon the contrived righteousness, then the people will return to piety and kindness. Okay? Remember chapter 18? We talk about piety and kindness in section 3, okay? About dealing about the 6 relationships within the family that when they're not harmonious. All right? Okay. So this is a further, you can say, deeper dive. Okay. All right. Let's talk about. Okay. So another basic meaning: by stopping the false benevolence and righteousness, people will naturally return to their innate piety and kindness. Okay. That's basically what that means. The other understanding is everyone has or corollary, everyone has a natural capacity for true piety and charity. Okay, people think, oh, this is a very naive or ideal view. Actually, psychologists have done a lot of studies about this, especially now. This is done in the context of where, or a lot of these experiments that psychologists have done is with young children. Now, have you guys read well, I don't know if that's require reading now, but there used to be a book called Lord of the Flies, right? About a bunch of, I think they're teenagers, right? Or pre-teen, early teen group of boys, right? Who got stranded, I believe, on an island or something. And then, well, from the author's point of view, I guess he had a very negative point of view. It ended up that that these kids started forming alliances, starting to try to gain power, if you will, over the others, using different means. So it's almost like today's reality show, Survivor, right? Group of people stranded on an island, they have tribes and whatnot and all that stuff. So, that's a very negative. So it ended up, the story basically ended up that, the point was that, even these, young children or kids or whatever, end up, bad, doing bad things, right? Okay, so that's a very negative portrayal of human nature. Okay, now, in actual reality, there is an actual incident, okay, like the Lord of the Flies. I think there was a bunch of British children got stranded on the island for, I don't know, a year and a half, or something like that. I forgot. I don't know if it's British, but someplace. And they then end up killing each other, okay? So that's a contrary example, okay? But psychologists have also done experiments with young children, especially, pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, around that age, okay? Definitely not babies, but, like maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5, they can talk, right? They can start talking, they can start, recognizing people, interacting. And they've done experiments where, you have an adult, stranger, total stranger, go in a room with these bunch of young, children, or what we call them, toddlers. I think consider toddlers. I don't know, older than toddlers, but anyway. And then they spent time, getting to know them. They have to get okay. And then the adult, and they have hidden cameras in the room. Okay, that the children don't know that. Okay, then the adult is part of the, you could say in cahoots with the experimenters. So he would pretend, after getting to know them, he would pretend that, he has some kind of, I don't know, physical ailment. So like he would pretend like he has trouble getting up or trouble walking to, from, let's say, a couch to a table, et cetera, et cetera. And he would pretend he would stumble. And then these young children, total strangers, but, they got, spent some time, gotten to know each other a little bit. They instinctively, these young children, would try to, go up, get up, or go to the adult and help him, support him, prevent him from falling or help him stand up, et cetera, et cetera. Even though those young children are probably, too weak to help that adult, who's just, by weight probably, 4 or 5 times heavier, right, than these young children. And this type of experiment has been replicated many times in different countries, societies, etc., cultures. And so just the psychologists were surprised and say, hey, these young kids, no matter, their racial, religious, whatever cultural background, or have this capacity, natural capacity to want to help people, even though they may be strangers. So it's very interesting, okay? So the further understanding is people are basically good and decent and naturally want to be helpful. So this is also what the Confucian, you can say, theory about human nature, that, people are decent, decent and natural and want to help. Mencius mentioned a lot about this, okay? So you can... And it's because it's based not on external benevolence, righteousness, wisdom, or knowledge, but rather they're internal, there's an internal, source, if you will, nature, okay? And you can say that that's, indirectly points to that we all have this Buddha nature, which is good and decent and want to help, okay? All right, so that's a long one. Okay, so the deeper meaning is, by promoting benevolence and righteousness, we will end up abiding in their label and appearance. Okay, so that's remember section 1 of chapter 2, all right? Observing the manifestations, okay? 观教藏, okay? I don't want to go over it because of time, so I don't want to. Okay. So the deeper understanding is, by abiding in their label and appearance, then we will lose that purity and simplicity. Right? Remember earlier I talked about when we rely on these external forms, okay, it's no longer coming from within our Buddha nature, which is pure and simple, okay? It gets complicated outside. You have duality, rationalization, etc., okay? What if then, and all that stuff, okay? And then that's where, it becomes complex, right? Messy, okay? So the higher understanding, by abandoning false benevolence and righteousness, our minds will be able to return to its natural capacity for true piety and kindness from our true nature. So such as the four immeasurable minds of our Buddha nature. Okay? So the implication is, by discarding the false benevolence and righteousness, we can return to the essence of the great Tao. So the key point is, Lao Tzu's wish is that we can return to our pure and simple nature, which is the state of our true nature, original state of our Buddha nature. Okay? Okay, so we're halfway. All right. So the third line is in cunning and discard profit. Okay? All right. Qiao. Qiao means clever. You can say clever, deceitful, ingenious, ingenious, skillful, okay, etc. Okay. Li, once again, means, in this case, it's a noun, okay? It's to have the benefit or the interest, profit, advantage, etc. Okay, so the basic meaning is to stop the use of cunning and ingenuity and relinquish the relentless pursuit of profit. Okay, so another understanding is stop the deceptive use of intelligence or cleverness to increase one's own profits, another person's expense. Okay, so that's, unscrupulous means, right? Okay, we'll use our intelligence, right? Remember that in the beginning, we have talked about using knowledge, right? So people begin to use knowledge for their own benefit, all right? Okay, and that's when we start, the downward spiral, right? We start deviating from our true nature, okay? So the further understanding is the cunning is used to increase one's gains through theft or robbery, where theft and robbery are generalizations for any action that's not just illegal or illicit, but also unethical or immoral activities. Fraud is already illegal, but schemes or trickery, okay? All right. So the additional understanding is by placing emphasis on just gains or profits, we will have the tendency for selfish interests, which in turn will lead us to become attached to the material forms and ignore our true self. Now, it's fine to use cleverness or ingenuity in dealing with matters, but definitely not when in dealing with people, okay? All right? Okay, because people say, become suspicious of you, right? Or distrust you, right? You have an ulterior motive for, wanting to help me or whatever, okay? So the deeper understanding is this. By dealing with this material world and people with our sincerity and trustworthiness, instead of cunning and selfish gains and interests, we will not go against our true nature or our conscience, okay? That's more important, right? That's the better way in dealing with people, okay? Not using cleverness, all right? Okay? So the higher understanding is by dealing with matters in accordance with the truth is one of life's fundamental principles, which makes life worthy of living, okay? All right? That's what makes us humans, okay? With the focus on selfish gains and material benefits through the deceptive use of our intelligence, what happens? We end up becoming material commodities where we can just use money to buy out everything, leading us to lose the value of life, okay? Of what is, right? What is, we no longer have a value. It's, well, you say you have a value because, you have a price, but that's totally, how can I say? That's totally the wrong view, okay? All right? So that means then life is not really valuable, okay? Or what do you call that? Priceless, okay? All right, okay. So the key point is by focusing just on selfish gains or interests due to the use of cunning, we end up contending against one another, fight and scheme against each other, having lost the sense of life's worth and abandon our spiritual true nature, okay? So that's a very sad state, okay? Then it becomes purely a materialistic life attached to forms. And guess what? What's the result of that? Endless samsara or reincarnation. Because why? We're creating karmas throughout, okay? Throughout our lives, okay? All right. So That's not called liberation, right? So Buddha's and Lao Tzu's idea is that we have to, go beyond this. That's the only way to be liberated. Okay? All right. Then here comes the third one, right? Okay. Or the fourth one, sorry. This is a continuation of to stop cunning and discard profit. Then bandits and thieves, if we stop, right, cunning and pursuing profits, then what? Bandits and thieves no longer exist. It seems very naive, but here, okay. So these two words, Dao, actually they're kind of synonymous. Okay, Dao is actually a noun and a verb. It's mostly a noun and an adjective. Okay, it could mean thief, it could traitor, it could mean. These are adjectives, okay? Crooked, deceitful, sly, wicked, okay? All right, so this means nothing. Okay, so basic meaning is, without the deceptive use of our intelligence for selfish gains or profit, people will not become bandits or thieves. Okay, all right, okay, that's possible, okay. Or another understanding, if we can put a stop to the negative use of intelligence, which is cunning, and unrestrained greed, which is, always going for gaining the profit, then we also stop people resorting to crime. People will naturally have no reason to. Okay, that's very idealistic. Okay, all right, but okay, so this is external. This is talking about how society could be a little bit, we would have, more security or less, robberies or less, thievery. Okay, if we abandon our cunning and pursuit of, or reckless pursuit of profits. Okay, all right. There's a deeper meaning though of this, of bandits. Okay, and Buddha used this too. Okay, so deeper meaning of bandits and thieves. At the general level, it has to do with our 6 roots of consciousness, the 5 sense portals in the mind, 6根, which give rise to the 6 desires. Okay, so that's Buddhism talks about that. All right, okay. So Lao Tzu is telling us that, all right, we have to be careful, okay, because we have bandits and thieves within us. Okay, so specifically, what does it mean about the bandits and the thieves? It's this. It's our deceitful, right? Deluded, fallacious, ignorant, malevolent, and selfish thoughts and desires, which go against our conscience and true nature, and rob us of our virtuous merits. Okay, that's the more specific. Okay, I mean the 6 roots are the more generic. Okay, thieves, generic thieves and robbers. So the more specific are these. So we have to be careful of these thoughts. As a matter of fact, 6 patriarchs also mentioned something close to this, similar to this, in chapter 6 on repentance. Okay, 忏悔章. Okay, 忏悔品. Okay, 忏悔品第6. Okay, so deceitful, deluded, fallacious, ignorant, malevolent, and selfish. This is not all. There's more, but you get the idea. All right, these all go against our conscience and our true nature. And they also rob us of our virtuous merits. You know that? Okay? So even though we may have a lot of merits, but once we have these thoughts and desires, well, guess what? Our balance of virtuous just went down. Okay? All right. So further understanding. By ending the deceptive use of our intelligence for selfish gains or profit, selfish thoughts and desires will not arise in our minds. Okay, yeah, that's a direct correlation. Okay, all right. So further understanding, with no thoughts and desires to go against our conscience and true nature, this makes our human life priceless. That's more important. Okay, all right. Okay. So, what is that priceless? Or the most valuable thing of being a human is that our true nature is connected with heaven. Okay, so the implication is by having a life or living a life based on principles, our lives will not deviate from the correct path or from the Tao, you can say, and go against unconscious. So the key point is, without thoughts or desires that go against our true nature, we will be in harmony with heaven, okay? And the entire cosmos is within us, all right? So there's no need to pursue all these external, profits, et cetera, because why? We already have the entire cosmos within us if we don't go against our true nature and we're in harmony with our Buddha nature, with heaven, which means with the Tao, or we are in accordance with our Buddha nature, same thing, okay? The doctrine of the meaning, to be in accordance with the nature, right? It's called the Tao, right? Okay, all right. Okay, here comes the conclusion. All right, so these three things are superficial and inefficient. What are the three things? Three things are the things that we just talked about at the beginning. Okay, let's go down here. The three things, okay, are from the above: contrived appearance of reputation, fame, and cleverness, forced display of benevolence and righteousness, undeserved gains acquired by hook or crook, are superficial and insufficient because of what is lacking: authentic wisdom, knowledge, benevolence, righteousness, and gains acquired through the Tao, benefiting and supporting everyone. Okay, so it's not selfish, non-self, right? That's the Taoist, right? Or a Buddha nature. We are all the same, so there's no self. Further understanding, for the above three things, words are inadequate and insufficient to describe or name them all. That's what. Okay, the key point is there's still many more names and labels for those false pretenses and items. Those three things above. They're different, more labels. They're more. Just so it's not limited to just those labels that that Lao Tzu gave. Okay, that he just wants to warn us, let us know. Okay, it's more than just these three. Okay, so therefore thus his teaching has its place. That means, okay, so means means this, su means category type. Okay, all right. So the basic meaning is this: the world is full of these manifestations that result from the abandonment of the great Tao from the above phrase, such as we can be fooled by lies and half truth. That's true. Okay, because we have false, right, benevolence, false righteousness, etc., right, or false wisdom, contrived wisdom, etc. Okay, or we can end up with hypocrites as spiritual leaders, those who don't. Actually, it's more than just spiritual. It could be anybody. Okay, anybody, right? And we can get ripped off. Okay, that's more on a mundane level, you can say. All right, okay. So another understanding is, so how do we guard ourselves against the above, against these things, okay? Lao Tzu has a teaching that he can offer. However, it is not a prescription to cure the world of its problem. That is advice for the individual, meant to help us navigate through that. Okay, it's not a prescription because what he's talking about in this chapter is not about solving the world's problems. Not yet, okay? Even though you can say part of it, is the general prescription, but this is more specific. He's talking about these three, these types of falseness, if you will, or contrivedness, okay? All right, so the further understanding is we cannot rely on these above three items, the false, the wisdom or sageness, right? The knowledge, okay? The benevolence and righteousness, all these false items, okay? Pieces we cannot rely on, okay? All right. Okay. But because why? They're not in conformity or do not conform with our Buddha nature and Tao principles. So then, the key point of this phrase is, what are the things that we can rely on? So he said, below are the things which our minds can rely on. That's what he was trying to say, okay? All right, so here's the last two phrases, okay, of to show plainness and whole simplicity, okay? That goes back to the title of the chapter. All right. Okay. Now, this word jian. Now, it's not normally it's pronounced jian. Okay, that means to see, to meet, or you can say that's an opinion or view, right? The first of the Eightfold Path, 正见, proper or correct views or understanding. So that's pronounced 见, okay? That's, it becomes a noun, okay? But actually in the old usage or archaic ancient usage, it's this, it's to appear, to be seen, to present, to show. And it's pronounced 现, okay? 现, okay? It's pronounced 现. That means to present, to show, to display, okay? Not 见. 见 means to see, to meet, okay? So there's a difference, okay? So sometimes people translate this, they would say, see plainness. That's not right, okay? That missed the meaning, okay, of Lao Tzu, what he meant, okay? So it's to show, display, you can say to show, display, okay. Second word, su, this is important. Su, we say, are you a vegetarian? That's su, yeah, because it's vegetable. That's what that's one of the definitions, okay? Another definition is plain, simple, unadorned. It could mean this too. These are adverbs, okay? And also, su is also, another literal meaning of su is unbleached silk, or it can mean color white. You know that? When people make silk, right? When it's, natural, right from the cocoon, or it's unbleached. It's also called su, okay? All right. Fourth word, bao, means to embrace, to cherish, to harbor. Okay, last word, pu. This is a very important word, okay? Pu. Literally, it means honest, plain, rough, simple, elegant, direct, unpretentious. It also means unprocessed lumber, unrefined wood, all right? We first came across this word or this term, where? Chapter, if I remember, I think it's chapter 15, right? Chapter 15, right? Okay, so if you guys remember, all right? Chapter 15, we first came across that term, okay? It's like in the middle of the chapter. Chapter 15 is a rather long chapter, okay? I know we talked about that, what, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? 4 weeks ago, right? Beginning of August, first Sunday in August. So, pu. That's a very important term, or important term that Lao Tzu use. It appeared 8 times in this classic. Not that much, but it appeared, okay? So this is the second time. But you're gonna see more of it in chapter 28, 32, 37, and 57, okay? 2 of those chapters appear twice, okay? So it just means unprocessed, and it has a deeper meaning, okay? So, what do you say, hold on to unprocessed lumber, or plain, simplicity, okay? It has a deeper meaning, which will show in a minute. The basic meaning is this: to show plainness in every aspect of life and embrace the original, most natural state. That's what this simplicity or unprocessed lumber means. Okay, there's another meaning though of holding simplicity. To hold simplicity is to be free from the influence of the material world, the state of highest potentiality. Okay, all right, okay. Further understanding: to show plainness, 现素, and hold on to simplicity, 保朴, is the best way for us to guard against the 3 things above. Remember the 3 things, right? Which is, right? These things, right? Okay, all right. Contrived appearance of reputation, fame, cleverness, right? Forced display of benevolence, right? And deserved gain. Okay, so. Okay, to show plainness and holding on to or cherish or embrace simplicity is the best way for us to guard against those 3 things. Okay, okay. There's a deeper meaning of su, which is what? Our original innate character or intrinsic qualities, not the Buddha nature qualities, if you will. Okay, the deeper meaning of pu is this: metaphor for our Buddha nature, which is originally very pure and honest, without undergoing cutting. There's no need to cut and polish, to refine. It's already very elegant, very delicate, very refined. That's what our Buddha nature is originally. Okay? All right. I think that's chapter, I think it's chapter 14. Yeah. Chapter 14. No, chapter 14, chapter 13. Okay. We talk about chapter 13. No, sorry, chapter 12. Okay. Chapter 12? Maybe not. Chapter 11. It's one of those chapters. Okay. It's in the back. It's in the pre. We already talked about that. Okay. All right. So, deeper understanding is to see, right, our original innate character and to display the intrinsic quality of our true nature, which is our true form. Okay, that's our true form, the true form of the formless, right? Okay, we also talked about that in the previous chapters, right? Okay, all right. Higher understanding of 现数, okay, to display some plainness. It's the complete manifestation or display of our eternal Buddha nature. That's the higher understanding, okay, of 现数, okay, not just to show plainness, okay, okay. It's rather the complete manifestation of our eternal Buddha nature. And then there's a higher understanding of 保护. It's to hold on to our original, beginningless and endingless Buddha nature essence. Okay? To cherish, to grab hold of it. Okay? You can say to be at one with it too. All right? So the implication is this. After returning to or holding to our Buddha nature, we will display our true form. Here, sections 1 and 2 of chapter 14. Okay? Dao axiom, Dao Ji Zang. Okay? That's sections 1 and 2. Talked about that. The key point, by returning to our Buddha nature from the midst of our true form, we could abide peacefully and have our minds reside tranquilly within our eternal Buddha nature. So we can be unperturbed, you can say undisturbed, okay? Not influenced by the external environment, forms, etc., okay? So that's very important, okay? So that's how we can, what? Protect ourselves, okay? From those three, or those items at the beginning, okay, of this chapter, all right? Okay. Let's see, where are we? Okay, now we're at the last phrase, okay? We're near the conclusion. I'm almost about an hour, okay? So to reduce selfishness and decrease desires. That's so in addition to displaying plainness or our Buddha nature qualities, right? And holding on to our Buddha nature, okay? We will also reduce our selfishness and decrease desires. Okay, so that's what. Okay, this means selfish. Gua means a few. Decrease. You can say low, reduce. Yu obviously means desires, right? Remember we talk about the desires that above that will harm, or not harm, but that will rob us, right? They're the bandits, right? The desires and thoughts are bandits, okay? So we have to be careful. So if we display our Buddha nature qualities and hold on to our Buddha nature or be at one, we will have less desires, okay? Which will rob us of our conscience, merits, virtuous merits, etc. Okay, so the basic meaning, do not be selfish and rid our minds of desires. That's what the basic meaning is. Another meaning, to turn the focus of our thinking from ourselves to others. It's no longer what's in it for me. Instead it becomes how can everyone benefit from it. So the further meaning of the meaning of life is no longer about what pleases me, rather it's about being of service, being a positive influence in helping people transform their lives with the Tao. Okay? Higher. The additional meaning, understanding is all our selfishness arises from being selfish for our physical body. Because of this physical body, we are constantly making considerations for this physical body. Those are all miscalculations. This is all wrong. Okay, we're always doing things, right, for the sake of our physical body, right, to pursue the desires of the physical body, right, the six desires, six portals, right, of the six sense portals, etc., etc. Okay, all selfish. It's all for me, for the body, etc., etc. Okay, so and we all calculate. All our calculations or thoughts are all for that end. Okay, and Lao Tzu saying this is all wrong. Okay, that's all wrong. Okay, so the further understanding is by decreasing our desires helps to reduce our greed, which is the first poison, which will also help us gain virtuous merits. Okay? All right? So the deeper understanding, we need to realize that our physical bodies are not ours to keep, nor is it under our control. This material world, okay, literally that's what this thing is. It's just getting us, it's just letting us borrow our physical bodies, because all will be returned to what heaven and earth provide us in the end, right? Dust to dust, ashes to ashes, right? So eventually, our physical body, it's not ours to keep. We can't keep it forever, right? We can't control it. We can't prevent our bodies from getting old, right? Et cetera, right? Okay. So at the very end, all this physical bodies have to what? Return back to the elements, to what heaven and earth gave us. Okay? All right. So the higher understanding. Because we can transform ourselves from these true principles of Tao, we can truly change our lives to something completely different. So that after our true diligent cultivation, we can achieve Buddhahood. And also our self-confidence is filled to the brim. Okay? So that's the idea. Lao Tzu wants to point us in this higher level, or the highest level, the direction of that highest level. Okay? All right? That by being accord with our true nature, Buddha nature, following the principles of Tao, we can change completely. We don't have to continue this ceaseless cycle for incarnation. Okay, we can transcend this material realm, right? This physical realm. Okay, and achieve Buddhahood. Plus our confidence, self-confidence in our Buddha nature, right? That's trust and faith about Buddha nature. Remember previous chapter, the most loyal minister, right, within us is what? Our Buddha nature. Okay, all right. The most reliable. Okay, that's the most. Okay, implication. To seize the initiative is within ourselves. So we need to cultivate the Tao along with our eternal Buddha nature. We no longer need to pursue the external forms of what? Those contrived wisdom, knowledge, benevolence, righteousness, etc., etc. Okay, all that. So the key point. Okay, here's the conclusion. We can become awakened to our Buddha nature essence. That is the foundation of achieving Buddhahood. That is also to return to our original state of simplicity and plainness. Okay? That's it. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. I'd like to thank the Grace of Heaven, Virtues of the Masters, for giving this opportunity to give this talk on chapter 19. And if there are things that I did not say completely well or missaid, I ask for the Buddha's and Lao Tzu's forgiveness and guidance. Thank you.